اليوم ما فيش شتاء هو بارد.
Please have a seat.
كثير انبسطت. وصلت عند بودا كسل بس فيها طلعات وهذا.
لا بودا كسل فيها طلعات بس في صيد ثاني كذا في صيد بيكون ماينستور صيد ثلاث أشارع يعني بالسيارة بتحسيها هيك.
Please have a seat.
بس إذا طلعتها فيها طلعات كثير من الجبال
هي درجها عالي درجها عالي بس إذا رحتيها بالسيارة بالصيد الثاني في زي باركينج لوت برا تمرق السيارة فوق بتحس حالك خلاص أنت صرتي فوق موجودة. لأنه المشكلة السيارات جوزها مع الديليجيشن أنا نفسي أنا بقول بس فضلتي وقت إنه بدينا أخذ الأماكن اللي بعيدة عليها
خدها وصالونة بيت المنزل
بس هذا بيكون بس ما بيروح
ما بيطلع
لا أصلا ياخدك شوي ياخدك على النوم بس ويكند نخلص كل اللي عليه سيارة
لا يعطيك العافية مستحيل هلا
ما تحكيش معي اصلا
حرام تطلقين زيادة
ايوه والله هو ضغط برا ضغط بالبيت لو تشوفي طوارئ سبيتش مش عارفه ايه
ما هو يعني لهيك بس في شخصيات
انا عارفه انت لما عامله البرنامج خلص انت من اكوزيت شغله انت لما يكون صاحب البرنامج مو انت مشاركه في بارت معين في ساعات في السكرينينج في البانل في كذا بصير في شويه بتلخبط او لا بتصير لخبطات انت عامله برنامج شيء مسؤوليه اكوزيت انت بتغيري
بس يعني تفاصيل كثيره يعني الواحد مرات بيتذكر تفصيل صغيره لما يسويها
غير الريجستريشن عارفه اونلاين كل شوي بيعلق واحد مثلا في ليميتد احنا جايين غير مسؤوليه حبايبي ما احنا كاتبين في الاعلان لازم نسجل والله لازم نسجل
حتى اللي الثقافه هون هيك
لا ما فيش ما مش معقول يكونوا مسجلين ما تقيموا فقط على الاولويه اللي بيمشي على السيستم ولا بعدين كنا صوتنا فساد واصله سوري واصله
من مرة الواحد يقول أنا الأوقات ما كنتش
الأوقات نفس
هاي
الأونلاين كمان تقدر سويتش أو بعد البريك ليه بعد البريك بتكون الناس أخذت شوي القهوة صح بيرجع فريش أونلاين جهزت كل شيء أنا بخدم السيستم أنا بقول السفرة لأن جايين من السفرات هون مباشرة وبنطلع من السفرين
بس الأونلاين أحسن أونلاين الجانب الدبلوماسي غالبا من هون على طول مباشرة ريسبشن
I am 1000% convinced that, and I knew it before she revealed the text messages when he said, I really I was listening to him. This guy can go
أنا أيوة اسمع فتح عيونك شوي مش معقول الطرق هم كمان بس أنا بالنسبة لي حافظين على ذلك الكلام هذا كله شيء شبهه صحيح يعني بيسمعون بالوش يعني مش معقول لو عيوني جوز صغيرة أصلا
I have to help somebody because they do not, she has not power.
دايما عندي وبركز كثير حلو خلق هذا مثلا انا بعرف السيدة تطلع مرتبة نطلع على التفاصيل أو الرجل يكون واقف في مثلا زي ما بحب الرسول تطلع بحب العالم الخاص ما بقى عيني يعني بتصفي لك كاملة النظارة مش شايفة مع الأرديلة قاعدة هيك مركزة وخلص له إياها عشان هيك أتذكر هم بضايقك أنا بركزش لا بس ما شاء الله كان صحصح انه كان يقطع في شيء فانت قاعد بسبح مش عارف اذا بسبح ولا نسي اصلا شايفه بس بتمشي بسرعه لو بقول لها تشدد لا والله ما
قربوا شويه ليش قاعدين بعيد؟ قربوا بليز كم up طيب شكرا على حضوركم. الآن القسم الآخر من الجلسة. This is the second section of our panel today. It's a Q&A session. حيكون فترة أسئلة وإجابات. وبعدين حنفتح المجال للجالية العربية المسيحية إذا عندهم أي تعليقات أو ملاحظات أو حديث لإخواننا هنا. So after that we will open the discussion with our Arab Christian community to speak with our guest here today. So إذا حدا عنده أي سؤال please يتفضل يسألنا. If anyone has a question please go ahead. أسامة.
Do you understand Arabic?
اللي سمعناه كثير حلو وجميل، بس للاسف انا تولد ال60 عشت القضيه من بداياتها من سوريا من دمشق. سمعنا كثير كلام، بدنا حل. يعني الطرف الاخر عم يحكي بلغه كثير عنيفه، فاذا بدنا نستمر نحارب بلهجه السيد المسيح ما حنوصل لنتيجه معهم. يعني فبدنا حل، بتمنى حدا يقدر يعطينا حل. شكرا.
Let's have 2 or 3 questions and then we will give the floor for our guests to answer. Basically, Andrássy and the English speakers, he's asking what would be the solution. He's coming from Syria and he's asking what would be the solution with this aggressive rhetoric of the Israelis. We will take 2 or 3 questions and then we'll give the opportunity for our guests to answer. Please.
I speak in Arabic. السادة طبعا بيعرفوا الوضع السياسي بالمدار ومواقف الحكومة المدنية والسلطات المدنية من القضية الفلسطينية، يعني بدون تجميل. موقف الحكومة المجرية والحزب الحاكم حاليا أسوأ من الصهيونيين نفسهم. سؤالي إنه للمسيحيين الفلسطينيين والسلطات الفلسطينية بما فيها السلطة الفلسطينية، هل واضح وضع الوضع السياسي في المجر من هذه الناحية؟ هذا السؤال الأول. السؤال الثاني: هل تقوم المؤسسات المدنية الفلسطينية بمن فيها المؤسسات المسيحية الفلسطينية والكنيسة أو الكنائس الفلسطينية باتصالات مع الجهات المدنية في المجر مثلا، في النمسا مثلا، في تشيك، جمهورية تشيك، للمحاولة لسؤالهم عن سبب هذه المواقف المهجرة؟ وشكرا.
Shukran. I will do the translation. Our fellow here is asking about the position of the Hungarian government, that it is pro-Israel. What would be the reaction of the Palestinians in general and the Palestinian government in particular? That was the first question. And the second question was, is there any sort of coordination between the Christian institutions and entities in Palestine with others to disclose or to talk about this political situation here? Let's take other questions.
Thank you for having the chance to ask me to speak. I just would like to, I'm wondering, and in the meantime I will ask a question. So we know that all Christians, when they have a confession in any point of the world, the Eastern Christian world, we can say that they kill themselves just to help them and to take them out from these problems when they face it in anywhere in the world, in any country, and they do them the best what they can, from the time, even they can affect by themselves, by army or any type of helping them. Why the Christians in Israel are accepted from this? So why you don't have that help, that great help from the Eastern world, Eastern Christian world, actually. Yes. So why you don't ask your help? Because you are also Christians. And they have the power, believe me. We say it everywhere. When they have to act, and they do it quite well. Thank you.
Please.
أنا حابب أسأل بس خلال زيارتكم أو الزيارات اللي بتقوموا فيها لدول أخرى، تلتقوا مع ممثلين لكنائس الأوروبية هون، تسألوهم إنه شو مواقفهم وليش إذا بتعرفوا مواقفهم من القضية الفلسطينية، شو بردوا عليكم وشو موقفكم أنتم؟ يعني حابين نعرف إنه ليش التأثير الكبير الصهيوني على الكنائس المسيحية الأوروبية. هل في مجال إنه أو معرفة عندكم حول الموضوع هذا؟ شكرا.
Dr. Nadal is basically asking, in your tours in Europe, do you speak with churches in Europe? Do you tell them why there is such an impact on the narrative in Europe that is so much offended with the Israeli narrative as well? There's another question. I think we will take this question and then we'll start answering.
ما موقف الفاتيكان من القضية الفلسطينية؟ هل يدعم القضية الفلسطينية؟ وما موقفه من الأبعاد الجماعية اللي صارت في غزة؟ شكرا.
Mr. Ayman is asking about the position of the Vatican regarding the Palestine, and does it recognize the genocide as a genocide?
نحكي بالانجليزي ولا بالعربي؟ فكرة
بالانجليزي.
نحكي بالانجليزي.
Can I ask one question before?
His Excellency is in charge.
Okay. Thank you for this event. Also, I'm from Syria. I'm Christian. I have one question. I know that in all these circumstances that we can see that the Middle East is being emptied from the Christians. As a Christian, how can we prevent and make the Christian community survive without, I know we will not defend everything, we cannot finish the occupation, but how can we prevent this and how can we save the Christian community in the Middle East, Palestine and everywhere else?
شكرا. Thank you.
خلينا نحكي بالعربي لأنه أظن الأغلبية عرب.
هل تقدر تترجم عربي؟ لا.
English. Because you want to, okay. I have to speak in English, okay. What I tried to show actually in my presentation was that the Western countries, though we might think that they are Christians and they care about the Christians in the Middle East, but actually when they look at the Christians in the Middle East, they look at them being Arabs, and they look at them being like not fully Christians like the West. Though Christianity started from Palestine, as I said, but the second most important thing is that every time, and this is what I wanted to show, every time any Western government said they want to help the Christians in the Middle East, actually it was a disaster. Look, it started with look at the Crusaders. Before the Crusaders, the Christians in the Middle East were the majority. After the Crusaders, the number of the Christians dropped. They weren't anymore there. Look at Germany. You know, Germany actually knew about what is happening to the Armenians, and the Emperor William II was the head of the church, and he instructed his generals not to talk about the Armenians because the interests of Germany are more important than the Armenian Christians. I showed that about the Britain, okay? Britain, the same thing. If you look at, you know, the 1917, what I showed with the Balfour, talking about 91% of the population as non-Jew. So they don't see the Christians, they don't see the Muslims, they have a problem with the East. This is what it is, you know, and so we need to be aware of that. Now, the other thing is, and I know my colleagues will say more, but like here in Hungary, they have a program to support persecuted Christians, right? But this is a political tool. It's not about really helping the other Christians. It's a political tool. So this is why, you know, you will not see this government here talking about the plight of the Christians under Israeli occupation. President Bush brought democracy to Iraq. Good luck. 1 million Christians left Iraq, right? So, the Western, and this is why we need to keep distinguishing between Western politics, imperial politics, colonial politics, and the plight of the Christians. Unfortunately, we are the colonized. If we are Muslims or if we are Christians, it doesn't matter to the West. They only come to talk about us when that fits their agenda. So they started, for example, after between First World War and Second World War, talking about minority. Right? We are not a minority. We were never a minority. We don't understand ourselves in Palestine, at least, or in Syria, to be a minority. But they developed this idea of a minority to be able, as countries, to interfere in the matters of every state. So this is unfortunate. So we have to be aware of the Western political agenda. I mean, their blind support to Israel shows the same thing. They are interested about their political and economic interests. They don't care about the Christians. If they would have cared, they would have stopped the Balfour Declaration 1917 already.
Thank you. Okay, so أريد حلا, the first thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let me tell you what I feel, what I believe it takes. I don't have answers. I wish we have answers, but I know what it might take. I think to begin with, it takes the resilience of Palestinians. As long as we stay in our land, we will not lose. Because the battle is about erasing us. And that's why so far, the fact that there are still 7 million Palestinians, 7 million in historic Palestine, tells you that they did not succeed. So that's the first thing that it takes. And whatever it takes to sustain that resilience of Palestinians on the ground. But I think there is also, we need to work with the growing grassroots movements around the world so that they change public opinions. We live in unprecedented times. You mentioned we've been in this, following this since the 60s. For the first time, we have strong public opinion everywhere. And those, even on the right in many countries, are shifting. So we must take advantage of that moment. And this is where the role of Palestinians and Arabs around the world becomes important. Because for many years they were neutral. They were afraid to be part of the political scenes in their countries. And this does not help us. So we need your support to lobby, to make connections, to advocate for our side. And most importantly, to call for what we call in Palestine creative nonviolent resistance, boycotting, sanctioning. This is what it takes to stop Israel. If Israel is sanctioned and boycotted, I know this seems like an illusion maybe in this country, but believe me, this is the only way, I think, forward if we do this thing. And finally, the importance of faith. Sorry, I am a pastor. What it takes is strong faith to believe in the justice of God and not to give up on our rights. As long as we have these things, not giving up on our rights, we will not lose. We might lose some battles, we might take very strong blows like what happened in Gaza, but we will recover. We are speaking non-stop with churches. I wish it's hard to quantify how much Palestinian Christians engage with churches. You asked about Europe, with churches in Europe. Not only we host delegations and we make calls to them, we visit, we have direct communication with most churches. We are both in the Protestant tradition, Lutherans. We have channels with most Protestant churches in Europe. The the Catholic Church, also with the Catholic churches. And we challenge them. We speak very openly. We criticize, we call out, and even if you look at the last 2 years, you see a lot of change in the position of churches. The first few months, it was not good, we know. And we wrote books, we called them out, we made talks, we criticized the church. But more recently, some are waking up. It might be too late. But even, just a month ago, the World Council of Churches recognized Israel as an apartheid state. That was progress. The World Communion of Reformed Churches, the same. So churches are now moving, actually, and churches are joining us in our calls for boycotting. Actually, now the problem with us is that some Arab countries are normalizing, and Western European churches are calling with us because of our activity for boycotting Israel. The same with Vatican. They recognized Palestine, but they still did not recognize, they did not call for, they did not say the word genocide yet, but we're still hoping that Pope Leo visits Gaza. That's our call from him. If you want to help us amplify this call and call for Pope Leo, he's visiting Lebanon this week, and I hope he visits Gaza very time soon. And finally, the question about how do we stop Christians from immigrating to the Middle East? All I can answer is from the Middle East.
To the Middle East,
Yes. From the Middle East. All I can say is that we cannot rely on the West to stop this immigration. We have to figure that out ourselves and with our, our neighbors in our countries. That's the way forward. We cannot hope that the West will protect us. And I fully agree with the analysis that Reverend Dmitry gave. I heard the saying from a prominent Egyptian church leader who was speaking to a group of Arab Christians, and he said, and I say it in Arabic, I don't know if we should translate it, كل من يحتمي بالغرب فهو عارم. أو كل من يكتسي بالغرب فهو عارم. هذه رسالة لنا كمسيحيين من الشرق الأوسط. خلاصنا مش بالغرب، خلاصنا بعلاقاتنا مع أوطاننا.
شكرا. We have to answer, and we have Ambassador Amira would like to answer also the question. We would like to start and then.
U.S. experience. Okay. I just want to add, to give a little bit of hope. I'm an American, and unfortunately, the key, I think, to many ways of solving this conflict will be if America starts to change their support for Israel. And I can tell you in the last year that there's been a tremendous change. You can see it in the polls, and there's people both that are on the right side and of the political parties and the left that are beginning to say, we don't want to be supporting Israel and what they're doing and giving our money there. So I think we have to not give up hope. It seems like it's in the darkest days, the days we've been through in Gaza, and what's going on in the West Bank now is it's hopeless. But believe me, it's not in the United States. And in terms of the churches, I'm Greek Orthodox, and so I don't speak to the Protestant world as much. But even there, I mean, Father Munther, you were in Chicago at the Christ at the Crossroads, right? Protestant gathering, and 800 people. A big Israel just had to declare that they wouldn't. They're putting $5 million to target 4 different states, all the evangelical churches, all the Christian Zionists. So if they have to spend money on the people that are supposed to be their biggest supporters, that means that the message is starting to get out there. So yeah, we need the Palestinians and all of the Middle East to sort of stand their ground and not to give up at this time. And I can say, we're trying to change the dynamic too in the Catholic and the Orthodox world. It's one thing to write a check and say you want to help the people in the Middle East. It's another to now go and vote or say to your politicians, we don't want you to vote this way. And I think that's beginning to change. So that's all I can say is that, and also too, both from the Christian and from the Muslim community. I was in DC not long ago. There were 400 Palestinian lawyers who were meeting in DC, young people, and also there was the next day a group of advocates, a conference room full of people, and young people were going to go in the United States to talk to the Congress the next day. So there's hope in the next generation that the message is getting through, and the churches are going to follow along with that as well.
Thank you, Mother. I will give a chance to Ambassador Amira to answer the question about what the government is doing and the Vatican, because she was part of the President's visit to the Vatican, I think last month. 2 weeks ago.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I think the person who asked about the Vatican position, well, in the era of the earlier, may his soul rest in peace, Pope Francis, the position of the Vatican toward the genocidal war in Gaza were much more clearer, as we saw in his speeches, in his public audience events he did. In the beginning, the first week of November, I've been accompanying with our President Mahmoud Abbas to the Vatican, and he met with Pope Leo the 14th, and our President said it was a very fruitful and positive meeting. We extended an invitation for him to come and see the situation on the ground in Gaza, and it's the first meeting between our President and Pope Leo. And I think the Vatican cannot go against the public opinions toward the Palestinian case, especially the Christians crying for ending this genocide or ending this occupation. And the other question was about the Hungarian position toward the Palestinians and how it is really not equal to the position they used to take against the persecution of Christians in the Middle East when ISIS was in the picture. Well, we met with the Hungarian minister in 2019 in Lebanon. They will held a conference for Christians in the Mediterranean Christians, and we were furious because they keep saying about the persecution against Christians by ISIS or by Islamic troops, but when it comes to the Israeli persecution toward the Christians in Palestine, no one says something. In Palestine, we never use the differences between Christians and Muslims when it comes to the occupation, because, as I mentioned in my speech, we are equal, facing the same occupation, the same assaults, the same violations, the same land theft to our lands also in Bethlehem. When I mentioned the shrinking of Bethlehem land, most of the land are Christians' land, Christian families. When we talk about tourism in Bethlehem, most of the Christian families really work in tourism, in hotels, in restaurants, in souvenir shops. So what happens affects our existence. And how we preserve the Christians in Palestine, because it is for us a national thing. It's not about being religious or none. I know because we've been dealing with Europe for long. Most of the countries now become more and more secular, and they are going away or being far away from churches. But we deal with both actually. Churches in Palestine used to raise awareness and advocacy for a long time. The position of our leadership, which I represent as the Higher Presidential Committee for Churches Affairs in Palestine, but to Europe, we have a new office now dealing in a daily basis with Council of Churches and also with secular organizations and human rights. With the seculars, we say preserve and respect the principles you've been established on, which is the human rights values. Because Palestine case is all about international law and human rights, which are absent, unfortunately. And with the church leaders, we always talk to preserve the Jesus Christ values, justice, mercy, and peace. And we want them to look more about what is really going on the ground for Palestinian Christians. So we become doing more and more delegations from our pastors, Reverend Munder, Reverend Mitri, Reverend Jack Sara, many others from the churches in Palestine. They are doing advocacy and they are doing their best actually to reach Europe more and more. And the change is done, as Reverend Munder said. But we need more for those changes to be also reflected on the governmental position, on the parliament position, for them to take serious political steps to end this occupation. So we are doing our best, and the churches in Palestine doing their best, actually preserving the Christians in Palestine. It's not only Christians' mission, but also our friends and brothers, Muslims, they are with us to preserve our existence in Palestine because it's one of the main identities for Palestine. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions?
You know, in Hungary there is ruling two part. The second one is Keresztény Democratic part, KDP, and ask you as a Palestinian Christians from my homeland, what is your cooperating situation with them? Thank you.
يعني إذا عندهم علاقة مع الحزب الديمقراطي المسيحي.
Any questions?
Okay. Have you invited the Pope and the cardinals and bishops from several different countries to go to Gaza, to Palestine? And who has accepted the invitation and went to visit you? Because I think that they should go and they should be there. And it is the same question for the Dalai Lama. Have you invited the Dalai Lama or a representative of the Dalai Lama to go visit? Physical presence in Gaza and Palestine?
Thank you. I see Latanya. Any other questions?
I would like to have a request.
Szóval azt szeretném kérni mindenkitől, hogy kezdjünk el összefogni, ugyanis Magyarországon óriási a hazvara propaganda. Próbálunk tartalmakat készíteni, de folyamatosan korlátoznak minket.
So I would like to ask all of you to start cooperating, to start standing together, because in Hungary there is very strong propaganda, and in spite of our efforts to produce content, we feel that we are being limited and restricted on a continuous basis.
És azt szeretném elmondani, hogy teljesen, ezt tudom valakinek vezetni, teljesen mindegy, hogy kinek mi a vallása. Azt gondolom, hogy Jézus óriási értékeket adott az egész világnak, muszlimoknak és keresztényeknek egyaránt.
And in my opinion, no matter what your religion is, Jesus brought great values into this world, including Muslims and Christians.
Például az irgalmasságot.
For example, mercy and compassion.
És együttérzést.
Yes, sympathy, compassion.
És ő nem csak egy békés valaki volt, ő lázadó is volt.
And Jesus was not just a peaceful individual, he was also a rebel.
Kiűzte a kufárokat a templomokból.
He drove the merchants out of the temples.
És nekünk mindannyiunknak emberi kötelességünk az, hogy kiálljunk az ártatlanoknak a védelmében.
And we as human beings have simply the human duty to stand up and defend the innocent.
És összefogjunk itt Magyarországon is.
And to stand together right here in Hungary as well.
Mert én szeretnék újra büszke lenni arra, hogy magyar vagyok.
Because I want to be proud of being Hungarian once again.
Köszönöm.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you for the words. I really appreciate everything you're doing. And we need to create alliances of different faiths. And I agree that this transcends being, because it's not a Christian cause or a Muslim cause, And we have even today many Jewish people joining us in this cause as well. But you know, there was a question about the relationship with the political party, Christian Democratic Party. First of all, we as church leaders mostly engage with church leaders. But at the same time, I want to share with you my experience in America, and maybe it will help in other contexts. And this goes back to what I said in my first answer. In America, we meet a lot with Congress members, try to raise awareness about the plight of Palestinian Christians. And we have friends in American churches all the time trying to reach out to them and help us meet and engage. They said 10 invitations, they tell 10 people we're coming and maybe one meets with us or we meet with their staff. They don't want to meet. But then we found out that when Palestinian Americans, those who voted and those who are active in the political life, call the Congress members and say, we want to meet with you, they say yes. And that's when they take us. So my point is, don't wait for us to come from Palestine to talk to the political parties in Europe. You have to be part of the political life in your countries as well and help us build these bridges and these connections so that our voices are heard. This is at least one observation I can make about that question.
Today the problem is not between Israel and Palestine. It's really bigger than that. It's global Israel against global Palestine. And so some countries stand with global Israel. I mean, you think of, by the way, all the countries with a settler colonial history, they support a settler colonial state, right? So think about the US, about Germany, about France, about the UK, all of them are colonial states. And so this is why they support a colonial state Israel. You saw here this, we had the Irish ambassador. Ireland was colonized, so they support Palestine. South African ambassador was here. They support Palestine because they were colonized. Colombia was with us, and so on. So our struggle today is much, much bigger, and this is why the shrinking space you are talking about is here, because global Israel is also here. I mean, Hungary is part of global Israel, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean we give up, okay? Because at the end of the day, we need to be active, we need to be creative, we don't give up. And it's not a hopeless case, I tell you. Talking about the US, when I started going there to talk about Palestine, 1991, every time I said Palestine, they thought Pakistan. Now every church is interested in Palestine. In fact, churches have voted 10 years ago to divest from Israel. In America. No Arab country did. Unfortunately, 2 weeks ago, we published a book about Gaza, 22 artists, female artists from Gaza. And a church in America wanted 50 books. So I asked the publisher in Amman to send to the US. Guess what? They never get there. Why? Not because the US stopped them, because an Arab country stopped them and said, Gaza, why Gaza? And so they wanted to interrogate us why we are sending books about Gaza to the US. So the problem is also in our house, not only in the West. We have something to do, and we need to build our countries. Our countries were destroyed by global Israel. We need, hopefully, to be all part of what we call global Palestine, to rebuild Lebanon and Syria and Iraq, because without that, Christianity will unfortunately not survive. But thanks God, today some Iraqi Christians who left Iraq are thriving in the US. So they prove themselves there, and we need to support them where they are, hoping and praying that one day they will be able to go back to their countries, exactly like Jesus when he was pushed by Herod to leave to Egypt, he came back to Palestine. So the hope for a right of return for all of us is not impossible, but we need to work for it.
I would like to announce for my question. I have asked you about the invitation of the Pope and other bishops and cardinals to visit Gaza.
To the West Bank, we have almost every week church delegation coming. Every week. The Pope also, the former Pope, came to Bethlehem. You saw him standing in front of the wall, praying there. Our president extended, as you heard from Ambassador Amira, an invitation to the Pope to come to Palestine. But again, Israel controlled everyone goes into Gaza.
Journalists can't go to Gaza.
No one right now can go to Gaza because Israel controls that. But we need to push. We need to keep pushing, and I think a visit by the Pope to Gaza will make a big difference indeed. By the way, before we end, don't forget to come tomorrow to watch the movie about the film about the Christians in Palestine. It's a very powerful film. Don't miss it.
Thank you. Okay, so before we close, thank you, Pastor. Okay, before we close, first of all, I would like to express my thanks to our hidden soldier. Second, I would like to أضم صوتي إلى صوت Yanka. I would like to join Yanka in her idea. We should be all united, especially here in Hungary. لازم نكون كلنا متحدين هنا في المجر. Whatever differences we have, whatever backgrounds we have, بغض النظر عن أي خلافات لدينا في خلفياتنا, we should be united because this is not a support for Palestine. هذا ليس دعما لفلسطين. This is a support of something that is right. هذا دعما لشيء صحيح. Is it right or wrong? Is it right to see children being killed, slaughtered before your eyes or wrong? هل هو صح أن نرى قتل الأطفال أمام أعيننا صح أم خطأ? It is applied whether you're with the right side or the wrong side. This is the choice. So we have all to be united together. لازم نكون جميعا متحدين في هذا الشأن. هذا الأمر الأول. الأمر الثاني اللي أنا كنت بدي أحكيه ردا على أخونا اللي سأل على هل لدينا معرفة بموقف الحكومة المجرية وماذا نفعل؟ What do we recognize the position of the government of Hungary and what we do about it? طبعا احنا شايفين هذا شغلنا. This is our job of course. ولكن في علم السياسة والدبلوماسية لا تؤخذ مواقف حادة مرة واحدة. There is no strict positions once a while. ثانيا المجر لا أستطيع أن أقيم المجر بموقف سياسي واحد. I cannot judge any government for one specific position. المجر لديه علاقات تاريخية مع فلسطين. Hungary has historical relationship with Palestine. المجر من أوائل الدول اللي اعترفت بفلسطين. Hungary was one of the first nations to recognize Palestine. المجر من أوائل الدول اللي افتتحت مكتب لمنظمة التحرير الفلسطينية في 75. Hungary was 73. احنا الريكورد عندنا 75. هلا أنت دكتور باشمهندس بغض النظر يعني. عجبتك ساعة سفير. ففي خلفية there's a background في الموضوع هذا. أنا بقدرش اليوم أقول والله هذه هي علاقتي معها بناء على هذا الموقف السياسي. ولكن ماذا نفعل؟ We are doing our work. إحنا بنعمل ما يقع على عاتقنا. We don't have to disclose everything we do. ما نقدرش نحكي كل شيء بنعمله. We don't have to say whatever we say behind doors. ما نقدرش نحكي إيش بنحكيه خلف الأبواب. That's why we say it behind doors. لهذا نقوله خلف الأبواب. والسفارات إجمالا ليس دورها أن تصنع سياسة. Embassies do not make policies. إحنا بنصنع تأثير. We make an impact, an influence. وهذا هو دورنا. That's why we are here today. لهذا نحن هنا اليوم، لانه احنا لازم نعلي الصوت في القضيه تاعتنا اللي بنرى فيها الحق والضمير. That's why we have to highlight our cause which reflects conscience and justice. على كل حال نشكركم جميعا على حضوركم وعلى صبركم معنا، وبنشكر ضيوفنا اللي اجوا طول المسافه هذه عشان يكونوا معنا. We would like to thank you all for being here with us and to thank our guests. ونتمنى أن يكون اليوم ندوة موفقة ومفيدة بالنسبة للجميع. We hope it was helpful for everyone. Thank you so much.
اعترض على القاعة.
ايه؟
اعترض على القاعة.
ليه؟
يعني ورا
كاميرا